Question on the genetic code at the bottom.
Okay, gotcha. So all the way down at the
I
bottom
didn't
here.
know how to, yes, I didn't know what we were doing the sequence for as far as like which one. It says use the mRNA codon sequence and the genetic code table to find the amino acid sequence of the protein. So is there a
hmm
specific one that we're doing that for?
So the mRNA codon sequence is going to be this one right here, the
Okay.
green boxes. Um, so you should see that you'll get like the codon here, and then you'll just translate that using this genetic code
Okay. I
table.
just didn't know if we had a different one or if it was all on like this one sheet. I think that's the only question I had when I've been looking at it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're just going to use that sequence. And j just a helpful hint, the amino acid sequence that you get here for these one letters, it should spell
Mhm.
out the last name of a Nobel Prize winner.
It should spell out the last name of a Nobel Prize winner.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So if you don't get that, I
Okay.
highly recommend you just make sure you go through it. And if you get like an early stop codon, make sure you double check your
Mhm.
work. Yeah, those are just some often seen mistakes. Yeah, since most of your points are up here, I just wanted to make sure you knew that.
Okay. And one more thing. Do we have to print this out or we can like edit it as what it's on right now, like our computer?
Yeah, yeah, if you can find a way to edit it, people, yeah, have like typed their answers before or just like they have like an iPad, they write on that. So
Okay. Thank you.
yeah, yeah, of course. Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you. Perfect. All right, so hey everyone, here's a little addition to the recording, just so that if any of you couldn't make it today, you can reference it and hopefully it helps you with activity one, which is due later tonight. So here's the activity one worksheet. I did just have a student come in and ask if they have to print it out. You don't have to, but you need to have a way in order to actually make or write your answers on the worksheet. So that can either be through typing. We've had a lot of people download it onto like an iPad if you have one, and they make their annotations there. But ultimately, you just need something that you can upload, ideally as a PDF, so that it makes it easier for us to grade. So just looking at activity one, you'll be looking at DNA and the central dogma as a whole, going from the DNA coding sequence to the mRNA codon sequence, and then ultimately making the protein. Now, just for practice, we've included the DNA template and tRNA anticodon strands, and this also enforces that complementary sequences kind of change the orientation. So as you can see, the DNA coding sequence goes 5 prime to 3 prime. So does the mRNA codon sequence, and then finally, that will lead to the polypeptide chain that goes N to C termini. So then every time you find the complementary sequence, it's going to switch orientation to go 3 prime to 5 prime. On the left here, you have like a cool little diagram showing how RNA polymerase is kind of transcribing this RNA so that it can exit the nuclear pore, especially after RNA maturation, where the 5' cap and polyadenylation table or tail are added to the RNA sequence. And then that goes into the cytoplasm so that a ribosome can actually transcribe the protein. And you'll see that these tRNA anticodon sequences don't actually like isn't the code that you use to find the amino acids, but um, each amino acid is being added to the new protein that's built. And each amino acid has its own, chemical and physical properties, so that the protein sequence is specific enough to uh, fold in a way to give it its desired function. So yeah, you'll go through all five of these sequences. And for the first few, I can actually go through this with you. I'll draw them a little bit. So you see you have this DNA coding sequence TGT. So what you're going to do with the DNA template is that you're going to write the sequence that's complementary to it. So we know that A binds to T, so it's complementary there. C is complementary of G, and then A is complementary of T again. So then looking at the mRNA codon sequence, you're going to find what's complementary to ACA. And so you're going to see that this here is U. You're going to have G there and then U here. So what you're also going to notice is that this mRNA codon sequence is the exact same as the DNA coding sequence up here because both are 5 to 3 prime orientation. But the T's here are substituted for U. So instead of TGT, you have UGU. Then the tRNA anticodon sequence here is going to be A, CA again. And then similar to the mRNA codon sequence and the DNA coding sequence, the DNA template sequence, on the other hand, and the tRNA anticodon sequences are going to be the same as well. Just similarly, the T will be substituted for U. Now, this codon doesn't have a T or a U, so we don't really have to worry about that here. But looking at the mRNA codon sequence here, which is UGU, I'm going to scroll down. Sorry, my annotations are following with me. And so the first letter is U. We have C here. Um, let's see here, actually. Or G, sorry. Yeah, that's where I got messed up. So it's U. We have G over here, and then UGU will encode for cysteine or C. So that first one is going to be um, the 3-letter sequence. As you'll see on the coding table is S or CYS, and then the one letter will be C. So now just going through the second one to just kind of give you guys a glimpse into what you'll be doing for the rest of them. You'll have G, U, A, or sorry, this is GTA still. We're not in the RNA sequence yet. Let's see if I can get rid of that. So as you can see, you want to make sure you like double check your work as you continue going. Oops, I accidentally did both. But yeah, even like someone who like always works with sequences like I do, I still like mess up all the time. So then down here, you're gonna have C, A, U. And then as I'm going through like the mRNA codon sequence and the tRNA anticodon sequence, I always like to double check that this, like I said, this RNA codon sequence and the DNA coding sequence pretty much match. And then same thing with this tRNA anticodon sequence. So I should get G, U, A. Cool. So then looking at the CAU codon and the mRNA codon sequence, let's scroll down here. The first letter is going to be C. A is the second letter. And then looking at the table, you have CAU, which encodes for histine or histidine. Um, so the 3-letter codon sequence there will be HIS. And then that'll be H. So as I mentioned before, this protein sequence here is going to spell out the last name of a Nobel Prize winner. Um, and her discoveries were really important for understanding some sort of cool RNA therapeutics. So I encourage you that if you don't get a last name, to go back and actually check your work, because ultimately most of your points are going to live up here. And we want to make sure that we start the semester with some high grades. So I'll get rid of these, and then let's go over these few multiple choice questions real quick. So the first one is, in eukaryotes, translation takes place in the blank. You should be able to get this from the lecture notes, but if not, don't be afraid to use Google or ChatGPT, because there's one major difference that you guys should have learned between eukaryotes and prokaryotes and how protein translation takes place. Then the second question is, which of the following is not a nucleotide component in DNA? Um, Here you're going to notice that the DNA backbone is always composed of these two different chemical groups. And then there's obviously A, C, G, or T jutting out from it to actually make the DNA sequence. And one of these actually has to do with translation instead and is not the actual component of the DNA. And then finally, a mutation changes how two or more protein chains of an enzyme assemble together, but each chain remains properly folded. Which level of protein structure is most directly affected? So I highly recommend that you look all of these different levels of protein structure up, because there's a pretty big difference between all four of them. And I'd say the most important part here is that you're looking at two different protein chains, which is the highest level of protein structure. Because ultimately, when you're looking at three of the different levels of protein structure, you're still focused on only one polypeptide chain. And it's not until you get into bigger proteins and like protein complexes that you're looking at the final protein structure. So, anyways, once again, I'm going to reiterate that you should be using the mRNA codon sequence that you find on this worksheet, which is this line of light green boxes. And it goes 5' to 3', just as like a protein sequence goes from its N terminus to its C terminus as it's being translated. So, with that, best of luck on activity one. And if you have any further questions today, feel free or don't hesitate to reach out. And yeah, see you guys later.